So the other day, Canon announced a bunch of new rebates on a variety of lenses. And as I posted that information on my Facebook page, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to take a few moments and just run through this complete list? I think we got about 46 lenses sitting on here. And just spend a moment giving my thoughts on each of them. Or I should say each of the ones that I've put my hands on and have used and have something useful to say. I certainly have not shot with all 46 of these lenses. But I'm familiar enough with just about most of them, or just about all of them, to be able to share a few thoughts. And I said, give this a thumbs up on the Facebook page if you want something. And there was a good positive response. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take some time and just kind of walk down this list of lenses, get some thoughts on its current pricing, whether or not it's a good value, are there any other alternatives out there, and if I don't have much to say about the lens, I'll just skip it and move on. It might take me a day or two, but I'm going to publish a kind of table of contents below this with a link to each lens and my thoughts on it. You're, of course, welcome to watch the whole video. I'll be inserting little snippets of useful information, I hope useful at different points. But if you want to skip to a mini review, let's call these mini reviews of these lenses, you will be able to see a table of contents down below. If you're looking for detailed information and photography examples or video examples using these lenses, this is not the video for you. This is me blabbing about these lenses. So if you don't want that, go someplace else. Or come over to Facebook and say, I really want to see video X on such a Y lens, blah, blah, blah. And I'll see if I can put that together for you. All right, so I'm going to stop talking about what I'm going to do and start doing it. So let's start with this first lens. This is the Canon 50 f1.8.2 lens, often called the Nifty 50 or the Plastic Fantastic. This is the lens where usually if you tell a coworker or a family member, oh, I'm thinking about buying a DSLR, they say, oh, you must have the 50. Now, there's a couple different reasons why people say that, and I do agree to some extent, or I should say I completely agree that as a DSLR owner, you should own a prime lens. Using and shooting with a prime lens is really when you can see the benefit of having an interchangeable lens system, of being able to shoot at these incredibly wide apertures and really get that shallow depth of field. And it makes you a better photographer because it helps you think about how you want to compose your image, and you need to actually move with your feet and not just zoom out to get everything you need in the frame. You actually have to move and say, well, I want that in the frame, but not that, and so it works really nicely. The 50 is cheap. It's cheaply made. But again, it gives you a nice maximum aperture of 1.8. And I've talked about this a bunch in my Canon Prime video, so if you want more detailed information about that, go watch that. But this is a very good value, and it is certainly a lens to buy if you want to kind of explore what primes can do. A downside to it is, remember, most of you are shooting with a crop sensor camera, T4i, T5i, let's say when the T6i comes out, 60D, the 70D, all of those are crop sensors. So you have to multiply the focal length times 1.6 to get the full amount. And, on a Canon, a 50 is roughly about 70-something. Let me do the quick math. I believe it's 50 times, no, not believe, I know, 50 times 1.6 equals 80. So 80 millimeters is starting to get a little bit long. It's a really nice focal length for portraits and tighter headshots, but if you're trying to capture a little bit more of a scene, it can be a little bit on the tight side. So you want to watch out for that. And if you currently have the kit lens on your camera, you can kind of figure out what 50 will be like. Move it, rotate it to the focal length, or about 50. You have to guesstimate because I don't believe 50 is marked on the kit lens, only 55. So just to the left of 55, and walk around for a day. If you want, you can even tape it there and see, does that focal length work for you, inside, outside. I used to live in a townhouse well, actually even live in a smaller place now, but when I shot with a 50 on a crop sensor, I very often found myself literally hitting the wall trying to move backward enough to get as much as I wanted in the shot. As somebody else I've heard describe it, is that they ended up standing in the doorway of all of the rooms to try to get the shot. Now, two things have happened since then. One, I've moved to full frame. which gives me a little bit more room. But two, I often realize that I did want those shots to be as tight. And in a future video, I'm going to be talking about getting closer to your subjects, because less is often more, and filling the frame with your subject is less. So, good lens, good value, good buy if you're interested in exploring what a prime lens can do. Now, I'm currently on B&H's photo website because they just have this list done nicely, and you can sort it out by rebates. There'll be a link right down below to take you to this exact page that I'm looking at right now. Right now, over here, the price is $110. So as I said, good. You get 4% reward back on that. So what you would spend, well, you get basically $4 or $5 back. Now, the next lens in this list is the 51-4. Much better build. There's a metal mount on this. You can just kind of see this hint of a plastic mount on the 50. 1.4 aperture, really nice. Sitting at $339 with this instant saving that ends at the end of October, beginning of November, actually. That's a good price. It's one of the better prices I've seen in a while. This is the lens to get you say, I know I want to shoot with primes. I know the 50 is going to work for me. This is an excellent value, and there's not really a better value out there in this focal length with this aperture. USM gives you full-time manual focus, which is nice, so you can autofocus and then rotate the focus ring without switching the lens from MF to A, or A to MF, which is quite nice, and focuses fast. Things like chromatic aberration are much better in this lens, so you can shoot it wide open outside. Still not perfect, but it is very good, and it's still a good value. Now, I find this interesting that this is sorted by best sellers currently, so at B&H. So 51.8 is the first, then folks are buying the 51.4, and then we have a huge jump to the 24-70 f2.8L. Now, for those who don't know, L is Canon's professional level lenses. They are expensive. They're built for professionals. They're usually weather sealed with very high quality glass, multiple lens coatings. It doesn't necessarily mean that they all have IS, but really, really good quality out of these. And well, you should. Current price, $2,300. With a $300 rebate, you're down to $19.99. This is absolutely the best price I have seen on this lens. If you're a professional and you've been on the fence about getting it, I don't think we're going to see much better price anytime soon. Real quick, go back up to the 50. I bought this lens back in 2005 or 6 for $75. Lens prices do not generally decrease anywhere like body prices do. In fact, many of them hold their value for years and years and years, and hold their value even in the used market as well. So just keep that in mind. Do not say, oh, well, I'll buy this in 2 years or 3 years when the price goes down. It's very rare that we see prices drops in lenses. There are some exceptions to that, but it's rare. So sitting currently at just under $2,000, just really nice. You can see it's got full 5-star review. You know, again, this isn't a perfect lens. It's heavy. It's incredibly expensive, but it is kind of the best standard zoom lens that you can buy today for Canon. There are Tamron versions. There's Canon's and Sigma versions as well. That they're decent. Tamron's version offers image stabilization. They have an issue with quality control, I feel, and I've run into that and have had a very bad experience with a Tamron 24-70. Now, it's mostly anecdotal evidence. That was just one, but I have heard from other folks that have had similar issues. I do know that people are out there, and you certainly save, I think, about $500, $600, $700 over the cost of this one. So that's a good amount of money. But I wanted to make sure that my pictures, when I get a bad picture, I want to make sure it's my fault and not the lens's fault. And so this is the lens that I've been shooting with primarily in my professional photography. There's also the 24-105 we'll see in a minute, and there's the newer 24-70 that's f4 that does have IS. So it really kind of depends on your purpose. This f2.8 in low light environments for receptions and other kind of photography really helps. IS doesn't help if your subjects are moving. If your subjects aren't moving, then, well, that's a possibility. The 70-200 f2.8L IS2. So this is the newest version of the 7200 f2.8. This is kind of the other staple of wedding photographers. So many of them use this lens, and you can see that it's selling very, very well. Currently sitting at $21.99. That is a good price, but it's not the best that I've seen it. Every once in a while it dips just below $2. I haven't seen it do that though in I think about a year. I bought mine earlier this year, and I paid, I believe, $2,500, which is a lot. But it is just incredibly sharp across the range. It's incredibly sharp wide open, and it does have that IS, so you can shoot at slower shutter speeds. It's really, really nice. I use this during the reception. Use this during the ceremony. Sorry, I meant to say ceremony. Use this during the ceremony primarily. Use it during the reception, some during speeches, father-daughter dance, to get the really close, tight shots and the expressions on the faces. And it's just so nice to be able to shoot wide open in lower light. Another prime on the list, the 85-1.8. This lens is great. It's getting a little long on a crop sensor, so that 85 works out to be something around 136 millimeters. So very tight headshots. But again, really nice prime, really good value. We're talking for less than $400, or $359. Why don't I just say that? You get an excellent lens. Does have some issues with chromatic aberration wide open. For those who don't know, chromatic aberration is kind of your purple magenta fringing a color along your high contrast area. So if you're shooting stuff that's backlit, very bright behind it, around the edge you'll get this kind of little faint purple glow. It's not their aura that you're picking up, it is chromatic aberration. But for $360, this is a good buy, and it's good lens, and it does offer that ultrasonic motor as well, which means full-time manual focus, which is nice. Next lens on the list, I haven't spent a lot of time with this. This is the 16-35. This is very, very wide. I think a lot of people, when they're first starting out, really think that a wide-angle lens is a lens that they need. They're going to do landscapes. They want to be able to capture everything. It's very easy to have very messy pictures where you have included everything and the kitchen sink in these wide-angle shots, and you want to watch out for that. 16-35 now, remember, this is, if you're going to be putting this on a crop sensor, you're not going to be at 16, you're going to be at 16 times 1.6, which is what? 16 times 1.6 equals. So you're going to be starting at about 25. Also, if you've been using the kit lens, so it's just barely a little bit wider than the kit lens, but it does give you that f2.8 across the range, and it is a good lens. It's a nice range, but you know what? Right now you have, well, the price with the rebate is $15.99. This is used, of course, on crop or full frame. If you're shooting with crop and you don't plan to upgrade to full frame anytime soon, you have the newer Sigma 18-35 f1.8, and I would suggest that that's a better buy for you. Again, if you're not moving to full frame anytime soon, that is as sharp, if not sharper than this. It is the sharpest zoom crop sense lens that you can put on your camera. And it is at $7.99 or $8.99. It's, you know, significantly less than this, and doesn't also require such a giant filter size. Some of these filter sizes are huge, but this is a very good lens as well. Certainly nothing wrong with it. This is a newer lens from Canon. I mean, if you've watched any of my videos, you've probably heard me mention it. This is the 40, and instant savings right now puts it at $149, which is the price it came out at. And then it went up to $199 for a while. It's now sitting at $199, but with the instant savings back down to $149. Now, most of these instant savings are also reflected on Amazon. I'll put links to buy from B&H or Amazon down below. Using those links helps support making this video and my time, so I'd appreciate it if you use those. I really like the 40 for a couple of reasons. One, it's very good quality, it's well made, and it's tiny, which is really nice to be able to slap it on your camera, and it makes it a good bit smaller. There are times where you want a nice camera along with you, but you don't want to carry a whole camera bag, and with the 40 on a DSLR, like the T5i or the 70D or even the 5D Mark III, it can slip into a purse or some other bag that isn't a whole big old camera bag. The only real downside to the 40 is that it's only f2.8 versus the 50, which offers the 1.8 for a little bit cheaper. But as I said, the quality is better out of this, and it's tiny. It's an STM lens too, which means it's supposed to be silent during video focus. I have found it not to be. It makes a sound that the camera microphone does pick up. The STM lenses, the 18 to 55 and the 18 to 135 from Canon, those are absolutely silent. This one, not so much. You can see that 40 works out to be 64mm equivalent on our crop sensor cameras. So a little bit long, but just a little bit wider than the 50, and that's another reason I like it. It's just a little bit more versatile. So $149, that's the lowest price I've seen it, and it's been that price before. It'll probably be that price again. I don't expect it to be much cheaper anytime soon, if any, but it probably will go back up to $199 for at least a while after this November 6th date. Sorry, November 2nd date. This is the macro. If you want the best Canon macro that is the most versatile Canon macro, the 100 f2.8L with IS. This has incredible hybrid image stabilization. One of the things about macro is that you are often working at slower shutter speeds because you can't shoot at f2.8. Otherwise, your depth of field is just going to be literally fractions of an inch, and so you need to shoot at larger apertures, or I should say, larger apertures to get that greater depth of field. And that IS here in this camera really helps. It's L, it's got those lens coatings, very, very high quality. Price at $899 is a good price, one of the definitely the best price it's been in the last year. I have seen it down to $799, but it's pretty rare. The best place I've seen the prices are the Canon refurbished site. I get asked a lot about the Canon refurbished or buying in general. I don't have anything against it, and I think that certainly sometimes the deals can be quite good. You're taking a little bit of a gamble with the shorter warranties there. I think they're only 90 days versus a year on most of Canon's lenses. But you can usually pick up some significant savings, and so it's up to you whether or not you want to value that savings over warranty. It's pretty rare that you need to send lenses in for warranty repair. Either it's going to be something that you drop that warranty doesn't really cover, or it's going to fail very early or long down the road. So Canon 100 L, good price, not the best price, excellent, excellent lens. All right, we're in our first EFS, which means that this lens will only work on Canon APS-C digital SLR cameras, which is your crop sensors. This is very wide. It's a decent lens. This is a decent price. I prefer the Tokina 11 to 16 f2.8 over this, though. The Tokina is about the same price, but you get f2.8 across the range. It's not quite as wide, 11 to 16, or quite as versatile. You got 10 to 22 here versus 11 to 16, but it's just a little bit better of a lens. And again, this is one of those lenses where, you know, when I first was starting out, I really wanted a nice wide angle. And the number of times I've put a wide angle lens on my camera and then made a shot that I really loved, it's been once. There's been one time, one shot that I loved that was that wide. Now, that's not to say that you can't do that, and you could be a different kind of photographer than I am and going for a different look than I am. But I don't think that wide angle lenses are actually as appealing as they are. So just keep that in mind as we go through that. All right, here's the third 50 in Canon's lineup. This is the 50 f1.2, currently sitting at $1439. It's a decent price. It's not an amazing price, but it is quite good. This is a fantastic lens. It should be. It's the L version. Very, very sharp. You can shoot it wide open. And just a nice all-around lens, and it's a nice size too. Some of these L lenses get very heavy very quickly, and this one is still, it's got some heft to it, but it is not overly heavy, and it's quite nice. 17 to 40 f4. This is a nice lens, and sitting currently at $739 is a good value. Doesn't have IS, it's only f4, but it is an L lens for only $740. This is a nice lens to use, but at that price, if you're shooting on a crop sensor, again back to the Sigma, you could pick up the Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8. Very different. Being able to shoot that wide open, but you're going to have the same focal length or same range and the same quality. That Sigma is as good as these L lenses here. 24 to 105 f4. So I've done tests of the 24 to 70 f2.8.2, 24 to 105 f4, and the 24 to 70 f4 IS. The 24 to 70, that last one being their newest and most recent lens. This is a very good value, though. It's interesting, it just says rebates available. The price, though, on this lens has really gone up lately, and it's not nearly as good as it used to be. This is a lens that I would buy used if you're considering. Used, you can usually find copies somewhere in the neighborhood of $800-ish, maybe a little bit higher than that. Let's see if there's anything useful here. No. So I'm not sure why this is not showing any kind of real rebate with it right now. Oh yeah, well we have down here shop used for $7.99. A nice lens, certainly not as sharp as either the 24 to 70 f4 or the 24 to 70 f2.8, but sharp. Really nice colors that come out of it. Nice range. Includes IS. This was sold as the kit lens with the 6D. The 5D Mark III, and so you can kind of think of it as an L class kit lens, but quite good. 17 to 55 f2.8. This is a lens sitting at $829. I do not think is a great value. This is an EF-S lens, so crop sensor only. Again, let's go back to that Sigma 18 to 35. Not as much range, but sharper, wider aperture. The Sigma doesn't offer IS either, so if you're looking for video and you want that constant f2.8, then this is an option. Another option is the Sigma 17 to 70 f2.8 to 4. Well, you say, well, that has variable aperture. It does, but only after 50. So from 17 to 50, you get f2.8, same as this. It does have optical stabilization as well. And sharpness-wise, it is very, very similar, and it comes in at about, I believe, $5.99. So a good amount of savings over this. You could pick up a prime in that difference or go out to dinner a couple of times. So that's 17 to 55. 35 f2 IS. Now, I have not used this lens a whole lot. This is one of Canon's kind of newish f2 IS lenses that they released in the last couple of years. If you're doing video work, this is nice, but you know what? If you're doing video work, you're probably doing a lot of manual focus, and there are some Rokinon lenses that come in that offer wider apertures, no image stabilization though, for cheaper price. If you have the 70D though, and you're looking to do video work and you want to have that autofocus working for you, this isn't a bad buy. 35 is a nice focal length, f2 is nice, it's got the image stabilization and the USM, so the focus motor is going to be very quiet and very smooth. Remember, with the 70D, you don't need an STM lens. You get smooth video with any current lens. This is a lens that I've never shot with, the 100 to 400. I have recommended it though when people say they're thinking about being serious about wildlife photography. They have some money to spend. So this sits at $14.99 right now, which is a decent price. It's not the best that I've seen, but it is very good. So this is a good lens. It's another L lens. It's a good value at $1,500 for this much focal length. That's about all I can say about that. It's quite nice. The 35 f1.4 sitting at $1,300. So this is Canon's 35. I really wish that they had a cheaper 35 1.8 like the Nifty 50. Nikon does offer a 35 1.8. That's a really nice focal length on a crop sensor. This is a gorgeous focal length on a full frame camera as well. So it works on either of those. This is another issue where there's a third party though. There's the Sigma 35 f1.4 that does, by all accounts, is sharper and offers a much better value, being way below $1,000. I think it's sitting at $899. So don't really recommend this. So you can see it's got great reviews, but that Sigma came out within this last year, and I've used it. I love the Sigma. I haven't spent enough time side by side, but all with the 35-1.4 from Canon, but all reviews I've said have placed it to be sharper. This is an older version of the 70-200. This one does not have IS, but this is a decent lens if you're going to be shooting in good light most of the time and you don't need that IS. This is certainly an option. One thing important to note, that these 70-200s are compatible with the extenders. We'll see those a little bit further down the page, I think, which gives you a little bit more range out of them. Not all zoom lenses from Canon are compatible with the extender. This is the f4 IS version of the 70-200. This is kind of your wedding budget photographer, or wedding photographer on a budget lens. So it offers that IS. You're only at f4, your maximum aperture. Very good quality though. Currently sitting at $1149. That's a good price. Again, if your light is going to be better most of the time, then this is certainly a way to go. And it saves you, almost $1,000 over the 2.8 version. But it's hard to say that your light is always going to be better, especially as a wedding photographer. Very often you're going to find yourself shooting in darker churches, darker reception halls, and being able to go all the way to f2.8 and keep that shutter speed up and keep your ISO down is really helpful. I know a lot of people love the 135. This is a longer focal length that offers f2, not f2.8, but actually f2, so you can get some razor sharp depth of field. It's a nice lens, comes in under $1,000 currently with the rebate, and that's about where I've seen it. I've seen it a little bit lower, but not much. I've used this lens before I bought the 70-200. I thought, I wonder if I can get away with the 135. And I just found it a little too limiting. People were either I was just a little too close or a little too far away, and I know that's with a lot of primes, but with a prime zoom it just wasn't really working for me. But the quality was beautiful and excellent, and I loved it. So that was the 135. I love the quality, just the focal length didn't work for me. So this is another macro from Canon at the 100 mark. This is not the L version. The price is great on this, and it is EF, so it'll work on crop or full frame. $550 right now is a very good price, and this has almost all of the quality of the L version, but not quite, and it doesn't have that IS. So you're going to need a tripod when you're trying to shoot in lower light again, or you're going to be raising that ISO very high. But it's very, very good, highly reviewed, very nice lens. And again, I mentioned when I said the 100 is a very versatile, your best, most versatile focal length, or sorry, your best, most versatile macro lens. What I meant by that is that there is the Canon 180mm macro lens, and there's a 60mm macro lens. But the 100 is in that sweet spot of gets you close enough to a lot of stuff that you want to take nice macro pictures of. Butterflies and other insects that are a little shy. In frogs. I've taken some beautiful frog photos with the 100. You can get just close enough where those shy creatures aren't quite scared away. With the 60, you got to get pretty close, and you're going to be scaring some stuff away. The 180 is an amazing lens, but it's very expensive, and you're really going to need IS and careful or you're going to need a tripod. Sorry, you're going to need a tripod and carefully work with that. So the 100 is kind of your best walk-around focal length. This is EF-M, which means it's compatible only with the EOS M mirrorless camera. There's only one mirrorless EOS M right now. We should see another one soon. I'm just going to skip over this because no one's really shooting with that. The 85-12L version 2. That's the angels in the heaven singing. There are L lenses, and then there are L lenses. The 85, when you put it next to every lens I've talked to so far, it's just gorgeous. Gorgeous. The portrait, the pictures that you get out of the 85 on a full frame camera, it is just a lovely focal length. My partner Christina, who I work with when we do weddings, it is on her camera 95% of the day. She shoots with two cameras, so the other one gets switched a lot. But the pictures are just gorgeous, and I've shot side by side. I've gone to events where I'm using two cameras. I'm using the 85 on one, and then maybe the 70-200 on another, or wider 24-70. And you're talking about 24-70 being a $2,000 lens that performs very, very well. And then you put the 85 up to your eye, and you look at those pictures that you get out of it, and it's a $2,000 lens as well. But a prime, of course, and the pictures are that much better. It is just an absolute fantastic lens and a fantastic focal length. There are other options out there. There are other 85s. There are manual focus 85s that I know some people love that are much, much cheaper. But if you want autofocus and you want what is close to the best Canon lens that money can buy, the 85 is it. Sitting currently at $2,000 is a very good price. Now, this lens is not perfect. Its autofocus is slow. Do not buy this if you're an indoor sports photographer and you're thinking, man, I'll be able to shoot with nice fast shutter speeds because of f1.2. Focus is slow on this lens, but really that is something that you can clearly or easily, I could easily suffer through for taking for portraits and other wedding type photography. Very nice. 28 f1.8 at $449. I would rather buy the Sigma 30 f1.4. I think that offers a better value at about the same price. Not to say much about, no, I don't have much to say about this older lens other than I think the Sigma, the 30 f1.4 is going to offer a better value. This is actually, I should say, the Sigma 30 1.4 is a crop sensor only. This is crop or full frame, so that is difference if you think you're going to move up. 50 f2.5. I've never shot with this lens. It's not one-to-one macro, and the 60mm is, which is a little bit more money. But this is also full frame. So if you're really trying to find one lens to do both nice portraits and some kind of basic macro work, this will work for you. And at $269 is certainly a good price. There really aren't any other macros at that range. I should say the 40 f2.8 will get you quite close as well, especially with a little bit of crop to zoom, as I've talked about in other videos. Here we are, another 70-200 f4. This doesn't have IS. Look at this price after rebate, $629. This is probably one of the best value L lenses that are out there. And again, you don't want to be shooting in a lot of low light with this because its maximum aperture is only f4. But sports photographers, high school sports photographers shooting outside mostly, this is a wonderful, wonderful lens. And if you just are looking for a nice portrait lens with a little bit of versatility, this will do very well for you. And again, $629 is an excellent price. Another EF-M lens. This is the kit lens that comes with a Canon EOS M camera. Skip that. 24 f1.4L2. So we're getting a little bit wider. Currently sitting at $1549. It's one of the better prices I've seen in a while. When I owned a crop sensor camera, this lens was on my camera 90% of the time. That 24 works out to be something about 38, which I found to be just a really wonderful focal length. Really enjoyed it. Very, very sharp, wide open. It's starting to get a little heavy, a little chunky with 77mm filter, but very nice lens. Here's that macro I mentioned a minute ago. It's the EFS 60mm macro f2.8. $419, so certainly more expensive than the 50. That might be a reason you want to consider the 50, but this is one-to-one magnification. It is a good portrait lens as well. It's a very nice, it is EFS only, so crop sensor only, but this is a very nice macro lens. What would it should, 60 or the 100. So the 100 will, of course, work on full frame cameras as well. Is a little bit more expensive. get you a little bit closer. That 100 is what, equivalent of 160 on a crop sensor. That could be a little bit long for some of your work, and so the 60 might be a little bit more versatile for you. All right, $1,200 40mm f/5.6L. So this is a very long prime lens. I don't have anything to say about this. I've never shot with this. This is getting into wildlife photography and serious sports photography territory. 70-300 f4.56L. So there is an L version and a non-L version of the 70-300. At $1,400, I don't think that this is the best buy. I would rather go for the 100-400 or the 70-300 that is non-L. Certainly a nice lens. I just don't see a huge place for it in the lineup. Here's your fisheye lens sitting at about $1,300. A fisheye effect, and this is also fisheye on EF, so full frame, which is very wide, very wide images. Very distorted out on the edges, of course, which is probably the look you're going for if you're buying a fisheye, so you want to watch out for that. An interesting lens, pretty specialized applications. You certainly don't want to be taking pictures of anybody close up with that lens. This is the older, 15-85. I get asked questions about this a lot compared to the 18-135 EFS lens. It is a little bit sharper than that lens. It opens up a little bit wider, but really not enough to make it worthwhile for $700. I think that value is not great. You're better off buying the 18-135 with your camera and just sticking with that. I don't see a lot of reason going with this one. So like that 35 2.8 IS, this is a 24 newish version. You can see I only got 15 reviews here. About 2 years old now, I think. 550, so if you're shooting video on a crop sensor and you want that IS, this is an option. That's all I'm going to say about it. 200 f2.8 $769, nice price. I have never shot with this lens, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. Decent price if you know you can work with a prime at that focal length. So this is another lens that I've mentioned already. This is 24-70 f4.LIS. This is a newish lens. This is a lens I've done a video where I've compared the 24-70 f2.8 to 24-70 f4.IS and 24-105 f4.IS. This is a very sharp lens. It has a macro switch. Really, if you've got money and you want a good travel lens on either a crop sensor or full frame, this is a really nice option. It's not nearly as heavy as the 24-105 or the new 24-70 f2.8. It offers IS, is really good quality across the range, and that cool little macro mode, which gives you almost one-to-one magnification. You can get much closer. Sitting at $1,200 right now after the rebate. That's a very good price for this lens, one of the better ones I've seen. The 20 f2.8. $489. If you want a very wide prime lens, or super wide as they say here, this is an option. Don't have much more to say about it than that. We're almost there, folks. Let's see, the 300 sitting at $1,350. I don't have anything to say about this. I haven't shot with it enough. Here's the 100 f2. I'm not sure why you would buy this over the macro. It's a little bit cheaper. And it does open up a little bit wider, f2 versus f2.8, but that Canon 100 macro would be a better buy. Here's a very specialized macro lens which allows 1 to 5x, so you could be photographing something and at 5x it's going to look 5 times life size, so you can start to get pretty serious here. Really careful focus when you do that. A lot of people put these on what are called bellows or sliders that allow you to adjust your forward and back movement of the camera very carefully to get the focus just right. You're working with incredibly shallow depths of field when you're magnifying things at that level. There's another one in that group of newish f2.8 IS lenses. What I said about the other ones applies. really wide tilt shift lens. I'd love to talk a little bit more about tilt shift lenses. I just put my hands on them and shot a little bit. Tilt shift is very specialized, very interesting. It basically can make your plane of focus, instead of being a narrow area straight out in front of you, you can make that narrow area be angled off into the distance. A lot of architects use this to keep buildings in focus as they're shooting up across the front of the building. We'll talk more about that sometime. The 180 macro, $1,400. I actually don't know if that's a decent price or not, because I've never thought about shopping for this lens. Really, really nice lens though. And that's about all I can say about it. The 24 f3.5, another tilt shift, very specialized. You can see we're down at the bottom of the bestsellers list. These are bought by very specialized photographers. Another tilt shift, another tilt shift. And I'm actually surprised that this super wide angle is not above these tilt shifts, but this is 14 millimeter f2.8 lens. It is going to start to give you some serious distortion around the edges. Very, very good quality. But if you're on a crop sensor, go with a Tokina 11-16, which gives you that f2.8 as well. It's not going to be quite as sharp as this, but it's also going to be about a third of the price, because we're sitting right here at $21.59. And there are all the kind of current lenses from Canon worth talking about that are currently offered in some kind of rebate, either an instant rebate or a mail-in rebate that gets you some money back or saves you some money instantly. If you have any questions about these, or if you have thoughts on them, if you shot with one of them, leave a comment down below, or even better, come over and find me on Facebook. If you take the effort to put your question on Facebook, I'm more likely to see it and answer it. A lot of YouTube comments are starting to fly by, because on some days there's just too many. And sometimes I'll find comments weeks later that was an interesting comment and that I would have liked to answer in a timely manner, but I just don't see all of those. So take the second to come on over to Facebook and leave a question there, and I would be happy to answer it. I hope this was somewhat helpful. If you want to see future videos of this type, just let me know. If you would like to see more in-depth reviews on any of these lenses, just let me know. Sometimes I can make that happen with a little bit of work, and I'll be happy. And please subscribe. Your subscription is just the first step in supporting and valuing what I'm doing here, and I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.